Hi, I'm Scott Fraser from the electrical department at Long Beach City College. Today we're going to be doing a series of videos to set up and check out the R.O.V control board that was developed as part of the MATE Summer Institute. There'll be 4 sections of videos. The first one will be the hardware and software setup. Then we'll get into power supply checkout, then communications, and finally the H-bridge and LED operation. So let's get started. Now we're going to go over the hardware and software setup, and this will introduce all the pieces required to build the entire system. We're going to talk about the required components needed to start the checkout and troubleshooting of your board. First off, of course, we're going to need a board to test. You've got an assembled controller here, and if you want, you can do this test out in the stages as we go along with the videos, or you can check it out with a fully assembled board. Okay, so you've got your R.O.V controller board. This one is fully assembled with the exception of a missing H-bridge down on this side over here, but we won't worry about that for this checkout. Next item you're going to need is very important, is a USB to serial converter. You can get these almost anywhere, and that plugs into your laptop or your computer and then plugs in here to the board. At this point right here is where you will be putting your extension cable to go from this connector here, down your tether, and into this controller board. Next item you'll be required is a power supply, either 0 to 12 volts for Ranger class or 0 to 48 volts for Explorer class. As you can see, we're powered up. I believe the power supply is set currently at about 30 volts. You need a computer, either a laptop or a desktop. Okay. Next item is important, joystick. This is a Logitech Rumble Pad. Any Logitech or equivalent USB joysticks will work fine. We'll be using both of the analog joysticks. You have the push buttons that you can utilize, and you can program any of these buttons from StampPlot to do what you want it to do. The last item that we'll be using is an oscilloscope. Now here we're using a parallax prop scope. It's a very inexpensive oscilloscope. You do not need to go out and spend thousands of dollars for an oscilloscope. This puts a display on your screen, as you'll be seeing later on. And this is an important part of the checkout process. We'll only be using one channel, and it will do everything we need to do. The smaller part down here is a signal generator. And you'll be able to use that later on to generate signals to go into the analog input if you want. Okay, good. Now let's get on to the software components that are required. Okay, your first item that you're going to need for software is the Parallax Basic Stamp Editor. Okay, this is your editing environment. This is where you enter all your code in and download the code into the stamp processor. Okay. The next piece of software you'll need is StampPlot. This is the HMI, or the Human Machine Interface software, user interface software that you'll be using. As you can see, it displaying different values, gauges, and you can see you'll get feedback from your processor board. We'll be talking more about this later on. The important part about StampPlot is you have version 3.8.5 or greater. That will support the dual joysticks. The next item you'll need is the PropScope software downloaded and operating. There'll be multiple areas we'll be going to. We'll be moving up here. We'll be changing the seconds per division. Then down here we'll be changing the volts per division. And then we'll be coming down here, turning triggering on and off. Coming up here, looking at our results on the screen. And sometimes we'll even come down here and look at the real-time voltmeter that's running and see what it has to say. Okay. Now you can also have, to help you navigate around the board, you can have EagleCAD loaded up. And that'll help you navigate the board. For instance, you can slide in here. J14 is your power connector. Okay? We don't have access on camera to J14, but where we're going to be measuring is right here later on D6 for your power supply. You can correlate the board to your layout. Once you have all of these items set up, we're ready to go on to the next video and check out the power supply.